So we were at their house yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna take this and like use it. And he's like, well, I probably won't use it. I'm like, okay, but are you seriously gonna take it?
Okay, I guess we're ready.
Because
Okay,
I'm like,
great.
I want to try it and see the difference.
Can someone check if the video has audio that you posted in the Slack channel, just to make sure? We've had it be muted.
It says the live stream is starting.
It's starting. Okay.
You can press the button.
Yep, it is starting. Well,
Yeah, it's live right now.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, that's rude that Matthew gets that.
Okay,
So-
take it away.
Okay. So this is, I guess we're gonna kind of informal introduction. I'm by no means an expert. I've just kind of played around with it a little bit. So I guess we can kind of start with the basics. So up here in the top left-hand corner, you can see this thing is called the Canon Center menu. That is the name of an agent, and you can have as many agents as you want. An agent is just, it's kind of, I kind of think of it as like an application. It's everything that you want that's the same is kind of going to go into the agent. And then in the agent, you have a bunch of different options. You have intents, entities, domains, integrations, and fulfillment, and we'll kind of go through those. So first of all, intents. These are kind of like triggers. You have your default one, and so this whole agent was designed with Google Home in mind, but it can be integrated into a bunch of other different systems. So this is the default welcome agent intent. So when you actually access this on your Google Home, this is what will happen first. So you come down, you look down here, the text response. This is what gets triggered when you ask the Google Home to talk to the Canon Center. It will say, you know, you can add whatever you want. You can add a bunch of different responses. You can have multiple responses that just kind of it'll just kind of randomly cycle through them. And once it is there, it'll ask you like, what meal are you interested in? And they're just kind of sitting there waiting. And then whatever you say next can trigger another intent. So if we come back here and we look at the intents list, I have two other intents. I have help info and meal info. So let's say you don't really know what you're doing, and there's a whole list of things that I've added, and the thing is that the API to AI natural language processor is really good at kind of figuring out if it's close. It doesn't have to be exact. If it's generally kind of what you're talking about, it'll usually trigger. Yes.
I just wanted to note that I felt, at least from my initial stuff, interactions with Google Home, that it's a little bit more intelligent than the analog Alexa skills. It feels like you can say it in more varied ways, and it gets what you need a little bit better.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like I helped my brother-in-law make an Alexa skill this summer, and like if you didn't say exactly what was typed, it didn't trigger at all.
Alexa's still.
And here, like I said, so you can also go in and add a bunch of things. And one thing that's really cool about this is over here, this training tab. You can come in and you can see every single request that someone has made on your agent. And if you can come in here, like
those intents, the application ones.
these. So the Google Assistant welcome is just that default welcome intent being initiated. And then this was a specific command that I asked. I think I typed this into Slack.
Okay.
So you can come in here, and if it doesn't match anything, you can manually match it to what you think it should be. So you can train your system
That's nice.
even more so than the kind of the built-in natural language training that it already has.
Yeah, that's good to do that.
Yeah, which is really nice because we'll jump over here real quick and I'll show you. So these are entities. It's kind of like data, kind of like an array or a set of expected response. So like right here, for dinner, you can say dinner or supper, and that's something that you could potentially train your agent to accept. If I hadn't added supper and someone had asked about supper and it failed to register, I could go in and say supper is actually dinner as well, and then it will, add it.
What if I said Dupper?
Dupper. It might actually even just kind of pick up because it can pick up misspoken words. Yeah, brunch I didn't add in there just because it's not actually a menu option, unfortunately. So
what happens if you accidentally add the same keyword to more than one command?
I don't know. I haven't played around with that. It might,
because there are some choices that are ambiguous.
right. I don't know. It might. I don't know. That's a good question. It might just do it like that list might be ordered. So if you put lunch, say dinner is equal to lunch and dinner is equal to dinner. Since lunch is first, it might just default to lunch. But I don't know.
So if you said what's to eat instead of what's for supper or dinner, will it just take the next one, or could it just say, do you mean supper, lunch, or dinner?
It will. Let's see. Let's come over here to these intents.
Some of it's defined here, and some of it's defined in a webhook that you can write. So it may depend on how you set it up.
In this instance, you could go deeper than, you could probably ask it what's on the menu at the Fusion versus because they have those various stations.
Yep. I haven't built that in yet, but that's definitely something that I had thought about. And I actually have some entities set up for that so that I can go in and add it later. So you can specifically ask about a specific station. But let's see. So if we come down here, so this is the meal info intent. This is when you're saying like what's for lunch. So you see right here, I've added this question right here, but I haven't actually fully, I haven't fully flushed that request out yet. So if you come down here, you can see that meal type is required. So if you say what's to eat, the response is going to be what meal do you want to know about? So if you don't give it all the details that it needs, it will go through and ask you specifically, because I have it checked as required, it will specifically ask you what meal are you talking about. So because the other things I don't have marked as required, so it'll just kind of do some default things, like for example system date. If I don't give it a specific day or day of the week, then it will just default to today. I have noticed though that if I ask it what's for lunch after lunchtime, it'll give me tomorrow's lunch menu. I don't know why, which is kind of.
Is that a web service?
It's
Changing?
it's my web service.
It is?
Well, I mean, I'm the one who's sending in the date,
Uh-huh.
but it'll move the date to the next day, like the API to AI will. I'm pretty sure.
UTC versus not site.
It might be. I haven't really tracked it down yet, but I did notice that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a convenient bug. So you look up here. I added a bunch of different types of commands that a user can say, and you see, like I added lunch and lunch on Tuesday, but it's smart enough to recognize that if I say dinner, that dinner's also included because if you see right here, lunch is highlighted, so it recognizes that that's a data type, and that's an entity type, I guess. And so if you come over here to our entities, we have meal type. It is a meal type, and so it could be any of these three, and then it'll recognize that. Okay, let's see. So that's how it gets triggered, and then if we come back over here to the meal type, so the meal info. So after it returns a response, you come down here, and I have it as end conversation. So basically, after it returns a response, returns you the menu options, then the conversation's over. But for example, if you don't know what you're doing and you go into the help intent, after you ask it a question, it'll keep the conversation open, so you don't have to say, "Hey Google," and start the whole thing over again. So one thing that I haven't figured out that I don't know if it's possible yet is to not end the conversation if you get an error back. right now, if you get an error back, or it can't access the web service, it just ends, and you have to start the whole thing over again, which is kind of a little annoying if you don't get the proper answer, or you find out that the Cannon Center's closed tomorrow, and so you want to find out what's for lunch the next day. You have to start the conversation all over again. But I don't know if you can do that or not, but that is something that I would like to be able to do. Okay, so we've talked about intents, we talked about entities. Okay.
Will it tell you that it's closed tomorrow? If it is?
Sometimes, and that's those are just kind of things that I've manually added in there.
The data in this API is awesome.
Yeah.
The API itself has got lots of issues.
So I was playing around with this during winter break when it was closed, which was actually really good because then I got some good data points back. But then all of a sudden, starting in January, because before every single meal they would tell you that the data center or that the Cannon Center is closed, but then starting in January they would only tell you once a day. So you'd have to ask about it on the right menu. Like it would only tell you in breakfast, or it would only tell you in dinner, and it would rotate every day which menu or which meal it would tell you that the Cannon Center is closed. So that was a little weird.
Well, I mean, they just added also every single thing that's in the salad bar.
Yeah.
Every single thing, and it shows up in 2 locations on it. So 2 stations are fully. I mean, it's just, and every single type of ice cream they could possibly have.
Yep. And every topping.
Ranch dressing.
Yeah. So if you notice, I don't return. Well, I haven't showed you guys yet, but I don't return the salad bar or the granary response, because those have like 50 to 60. Well, they're not always the same. Like the granary has the desserts in it that rotate.
So if you go down to the granary, the key is the way they listed in the thing. If you go down to the granary and you find butter, butter's the last of the standard stuff. And then there's this little section of stuff that is the stuff for today, and then you get back into the standard stuff again.
Well, that's how you code it up. You just
Well,
right after butter.
I guess.
But they stopped. They actually reordered that for a while, and then they went back to the order that it's in now.
Yeah,
They
it's.
messed with it on a regular.
The problem is scraping.
That's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, there is an API call.
We have forks.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's separate in the sense that you can get separate calorie.
Which is why they do it that way, I think. But it's not very
I still don't believe
friendly.
the cheese sauce calorie information that they have. It cannot be that healthy for you. It's gotta be wrong.
Okay. So then we have domains which are built-in information or kind of built-in learning. For example, you can see right here I have time and dates selected. So what that does is that allows me to, without having to do anything on my part, to just say what's for lunch on Tuesday, and it can parse, it'll pull out Tuesday, and it'll give me the date for Tuesday, which is because my API needs a date, right? And I don't have to do any conversion or anything. So I will get an actual date, which is what is the day for Tuesday. You can say next Tuesday. You can say the 25th. Anything that you would normally naturally say, it will convert it into an actual date that's formatted properly, and then it'll send that back to the back end.
That feels all magically and timey-wimey to me.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's really nice.
Set the time
I
zone.
need one.
What's that?
You should say, set the time zone.
You might be able to. I mean, there's tons of things that you can do. Like if we go here and we look at the docs for this is just time and date.
That's artificial intelligence for you. It starts surprising you.
So if
Yeah.
you're sick today and you can't remember what you ate yesterday, but you think maybe it's the reason you're feeling sick. You say, what was for lunch yesterday?
I've actually never tried going back in time, but we definitely could. I mean, we could try that here in just a second.
My roommate's hyper today. Her lunch shirt on me yesterday.
So I mean, these are all the things that you can do. I mean, if we, it has tons and tons of kind of built-in features. Yeah, I mean, and that's, I mean, and this is just for time. I mean, they have news, phone calls, messages, media. I mean, they have tons and tons of stuff that's already kind of built in there for you that you don't have to manage at all. Translation, social network, shopping, tons and tons of stuff. And you can turn these on and off so that
In your conversation.
Yes.
With your
With-
action.
yes.
You can then start talking about this stuff and. it
Yep.
can respond appropriately.
And so this one is usually turned on by default, but when I was going through the Google's tutorial, they recommend turning it off, the small talk one.
Say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. They said that sometimes causes problems. Like if you want to ask a specific question, the small talk will kind of
Like jump in and grab it.
Yeah.
instead of your phone.
Yeah. I mean, so that's kind of important. Okay, so integrations. So these are all of the services that you can integrate your single agent with. So, for example, I've integrated with Actions on Google and on Slack. So, and it's actually installed on the OIT Slack channel. So if you just ask at Cannon_Center, what's for lunch, it'll give you a response.
Can you show us? Or can someone show us?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not signed
You
in.
can't log into Slack.
Well, I mean, I can, but I'm not. I'm signed into just a dummy Slack account at the moment.
Do you want to just switch to HDMI real quick? and,
Yep.
Try it. And just don't keep- Make sure that you're still broadcasting.
Sharing your screen. That's your face.
Okay, what channel?
If you just start a direct conversation
Matthew's done it.
With what?
with Cannon Center, so you can just ask it what's for lunch.
You're like looking at him, he's like this. And he's like,
Why did it?
I don't know why. I don't know why it does that at first.
Sweet.
Maddie, what you need to do
He
is
starts
you take it home
probably.
and watch it with your kids, and then you get the best feedback you've ever got.
It's interesting that it did it twice.
Yeah.
They probably don't respond because they see that every.
Live demos.
Yep.
Is that good? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Everyone want to see that?
So that's what you get in Slack if you ask it.
So, go off a bit. What was the beginning of the conversation?
I don't know why it does it, but every time you start a conversation with it, it says, sorry,
It's like it picked up me even just starting to type.
Move to the Cannon Center thing and then you start interacting with it there. Where did you start the conversation?
Just at the,
Directly after.
yeah, this is just a direct conversation with
Okay, so
Cannon.
do a DM. to-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it in any channel.
Yeah, you really can if you just do the at, if you directly
So, at free food.
at free food.
You can just have a web, just an incoming web hook, send it to the general channel every day.
Yeah, I mean,
No, put it. We need a Cannon Center channel.
Just messing with them.
so does anyone have any questions on Slack integration?
Let's see. Can you try it on your Google Home?
Yeah, so let me deploy it real quick. So I'm in the process of getting it published or deployed, but so it's currently running on a just a DigitalOcean server, and it seems that the first time you ask it, it'll fail frequently, and you ask it again, and it'll work just fine. So I just barely got a notification today that it got approved and it was in deploying status for like 3 days, and then this morning they pulled it because every time they asked it, they had said something went wrong. So if we go over here, so the cool thing about this is they actually have a built-in simulator, but now that it's on preview mode, you can just ask that as well, and that it should work if you just ask. So you have to ask it to talk to the Cannon Center first.
Can I talk to the Cannon Center? Okay, Google. Can I talk to the Cannon Center?
Sure, here's Cannon. Hi, let me know what meal you are interested in.
How about the Niner?
I'm not totally sure about that.
What about lunch?
Corn powder soup. Toppings. Selection below: sour cream, shredded cheddar cheese, sliced green onion, diced bacon, white tortilla strips.
So that's one thing that I do have still is the soup toppings, which is a little annoying. I haven't pulled that out yet.
At the Euro Station, they are serving steamed jasmine rice,
Almost cut it
beef
down to six.
stroganoff,
That's pretty
steamed.
Yeah, I cut it down to station.
They are serving 1/4 of a pound cheeseburger, shrimp po' boy with watercress remoulade, thin cut fries.
And then the conversation's over. So the problem like with that is if that had failed, then you'd have to. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but you'd kind of have to start the conversation over again.
It's interesting how Google's voice interface almost requires you, at least at this point, to initiate a conversation as if, it's like, hey, would you tell me to, can I talk to him?
Yeah.
So you just say,
Yeah, that's how you have to do it with the third party
Yeah.
actions. Is you have to ask to talk to it, and then they'll pass it off.
A little more
To-
natural than the.
Alexa, you have to, you have to say, tell, you're talking to Alexa still, but you say, tell this other thing to talk to me about whatever, and at that point it hands it off to.
Okay,
It's a
and-
little bit faster.
You think that's faster?
It's a little bit faster, but it's less intuitive,
And-
Anyway.
So yeah, so I guess we can show it right here real quick too. This is actually really nice because you don't even have to have a Google Home to develop, and you can see kind of the exact, and you can even do typing. You can say like,
Cannon Center. Hi, let me know what meal you are interested in.
wow, I have never actually done that before.
You mean like Slack or?
Yeah.
Or like this?
Yeah.
It doesn't have one of these.
Okay. No, this would be Echo Sim.
Not EchoSim, when you just publish it in alexa.developer.com, it's in there. So on the right, that's what.
What about in your code?
What about? Through like Slack?
No, this is what explicitly got sent to the API to AI. This is actually kind of interesting. I've actually never done the web simulator with a Google Home in the same room. And if you saw, it passed it off to the speaker rather than,
Oh, it did.
I'm pretty sure because,
No, it came overhead.
oh, I thought it came in through there. I was like, what? No, it didn't. They're right. It came in through the speaker. It just came.
Yeah, he is decent, but-
The speakers in here are very strong.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, so then
We
you,
get to microphones and do our OIT singers thing in here, so the whole building can hear.
so this is, let's see.
At the Fusion Station, they are serving chicken bacon ranch flatbread,
Okay.
Italian sausage. At the Fusion Station,
Oops.
they are serving chicken bacon ranch flatbread,
That-
Italian sausage tortellini soup, minestrone soup, Asian chicken noodle soup.
I don't know how to
soup,
stop it.
toppings.
Okay,
See selection below.
we'll just close it like this. Okay, so
Can you say be quiet right after that, and would it stop?
you can tell it to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it there on the web simulator,
Just say be quiet.
but you can, like, if it's anything with Google Home, if it's talking and
Yeah.
you can just say
I
stop.
wouldn't mind if we had like 5 minutes at the end, I'd love to play around. with
Sure.
this just to see how
Sure.
it's different from the.
Yeah, we definitely can. So there's that is how you interact. You can do a simulator of the Google Home explicitly, but over here you can also just try the API to AI intents. So I can come over here and say, right here in this corner, and then it gives me the response. So because you're getting the the same information back regardless of what service you're integrating with. So you can kind of compartmentalize it and debug it a little bit more specifically. Like there's a lot of times in which I'll just use this when I was trying to debug some issue with my web service, and I didn't really want to have to go through Google Home to get the responses. Okay, so that's integration. Let's see. And then, so one thing to note is if you're going to do the Google Home or the Google Assistant with a webhook, that web server has to have a signed certificate, and it can't be a self-signed certificate. I tried with a self-signed certificate, and it didn't like that. But there's I can't even remember what it is, but there's services out there where you can get free, legitimately signed certificates.
Yeah.
No idea, just like,
Right. I mean, we could do it through BYU just fine. But I'm saying if you're just playing around with it, like I was just doing this on the weekend and didn't really have access to that. Okay, so then there's fulfillment. When you just enable it, you have your URL and you just add the headers. You can do authentication stuff. I didn't, just because they're not really passing any sensitive information.
How hard was it to interact? You know, what type of request was it sending to your web service?
Let's
Was it
see.
painful to use or easy?
No, it's right here. So this is what gets sent back to me, but this has all the information filled out. So basically you would get like an empty version of this sent to my web service, and then I just fill in
You just fill the pieces.
and then send it back. So I mean, let's see. So right here, you can see source agent. You can see where it's coming from. For example, you can see if it's coming from Slack, if it's coming from Google Assistant. This right here, saying it's just coming from the agent directly. So I mean, if you wanted to, you can kind of modify your responses. In fact, I might do that a little bit later, just because you have to see right here. So the responses always have to have the fulfillment. Let's see, it has to have like this the speech, display text. I think it has to have a data field, and they don't have to be full, but they have to be in the response. And if you see right here, in order to get Slack to work, you have to send in this kind of weird convoluted response back that's specifically designed for Slack. So I might in the future go in and not send that back if it didn't come from Slack. So then with the payload's a little bit smaller. I mean, the payload's not huge right now, but I mean, there's a fair amount of text.
Yeah.
So you could turn that on and off depending on who sent it.
Right at the top.
Oh, so yep.
There's a field called result query. Is that the raw text that you spoke of?
I think so. Because like I said, when we're looking at the intents, those are just examples of what a user can say, and they're smart enough to match close responses. So I think I'm pretty sure that well, let's.
Does it pass in? Oh yeah, it passed in the intent name, so Neil info.
Yeah. But I think that's.
That's nice. That's
That
what
is
you
nice.
don't get with
Alexa
Alexa.
doesn't give you that.
Doesn't give you what?
The actual text that you
Oh.
spoke.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. I mean, we can try it again.
That would be so helpful.
And then if we come over here. Yeah, so I think it is. I mean, it seems to be that is exactly what. Yeah, the result.
Nice.
The resolved query. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Except for trying out the Google Home.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, no problem.
So the one thing that I'd love to do with Alexa, but I can't do, is just do a Google search or ask someone